doing today?
I'm doing good, and I'm doing breakfast at the moment because I'm in New Zealand.
So how about you tell us your name and a little bit about yourself to get started?
Okay, my name is Peter Hayden, Hayden, and you can probably tell from my accent I'm not American. I am from New Zealand. I am a senior. I am 70 years of age. Played the role of Endo Kazuki in this piece, and he this eccentric character who runs a lab, who's the dream weaver, this kind of thing, really eccentric, strange, weird, which I really like. So I do voice work. I've got a little home studio here. I also my wife and I have a small farm, not many animals, but we've got a lot of trees. So we basically farm trees and we grow fruit and vegetables and stuff like that. And we have a new puppy who's now sitting on my lap.
Aww.
And he's just been crazy bitey, and now he's going to sleep, so.
So, what inspired you to start voice acting? Have you been doing it, most of your life, or is it something you recently started?
Well, through interesting, I've had an interesting life. I've done a science degree and then went to drama school, and so that's, two totally different things. But I went into theatre, but then joined television, and I ended up in factual television and documentary television. So I've spent my acting career has basically just been around the edges for a lot of years, because I went the safe path. I went down the role of being employed pretty much full time as a writer, producer, director of nature shows, science shows, that kind of thing. I've done a lot of that, but always kept, I always do a play a year, a professional theatre play, and I do a bit of television and the odd commercial along the way. But in the last 10 or so years, I've gone, right, there's unfinished business in the acting area, so I'm pretty much doing it full time now if I can get to work. But during coronavirus, it's been very quiet.
Right.
Quiet time for a lot of people. Yeah.
That's really cool, though. What's your favorite nature documentary you've been a part of?
Well, we started doing local New Zealand shows, but we're an interesting country where there's a lot of birds here. It's an island that existed. There was no mammals got here until people got here and brought rats and horrible things like that. So the birds of this country are really unusual. And we started telling these stories thinking they were going to soon become extinct. But then it corresponded with a time when the really good scientists and people were getting on to saving these birds. And so they become really happy stories. Like the rarest bird in the world is now, there's hundreds of them. And it's a very cute little robin, a powder puff little bird. And it's such a beautiful story, and such an outpouring of money and support came for that project as a result of that film. We were really pleased. But then went on, and I've made so many films that have ended up on Discovery Channel and Nat Geo and PBS and BBC and all that kind of thing. So, there's been heaps of them.
That's awesome. What was the first project that really excited you or that you were really proud of?
Well, that little bird called the black robin. But one of the other good ones I really liked was a documentary we did for the international market on the Tasmanian devil in Australia, that nasty little character, and another one on the Komodo dragon we did.
That's really cool. I always loved nature documentaries and stuff, and especially when I was little too. I was so obsessed with animals, and I thought it was the coolest thing.
Yeah, well, it's just so sad that nature is kind of, it's in trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think anybody can agree with that.
Hopefully, if the more you know, the more we're likely to want to protect, rather than just go our own way and live in our little bubbles and forget about the rest of the world. So they do have a role, I think.
Something I've always wondered about nature documentaries and how they're made, do you, as the voiceover artist, do you have to learn all about the animals themselves, or do you just read the script that you're given?
I was often the writer, so I certainly I know a hell of a lot about each of the subjects that I get into, and I'm still doing some of that work now. Like working with a German documentary company, and I'm writing a script for them, and I'm also a producer and a director. So I've worn all the hats.
That's cool. What is your favorite role to be?
Ew. I like writing because that enables you to go deepest. But then I get frustrated and go, oh, I want to direct, and then I go, at different times I've loved them all. Producing's probably my least favorite.
Oh, okay. Well, why is that?
Well, that's less of the creative and more about organization and finding the money and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah, that never really interested me either. That's why I, was drawn to writing as well.
Yeah.
So I was going to ask you, like, is there anybody who inspired you specifically to start either voice acting or like your creative path?
I always liked voices and doing voices from a young age, and there was an English actor called Peter Sellers who I loved everything he did, and he was involved in comedy too, which I liked. There was also a Dr. Zeus story, which I thought was amazing. I'd hear it on the radio, and it was about this little character. You can see it on YouTube still. I looked it up the other day, and his name was Gerald McBoing Boing. And he's a little kid who grew up, but he didn't speak words. He spoke sound effects. And he'd sound like a train, he'd sound like a rocket taking off, or a car, or a door slam, or anything, or a dog barking. And of course, it's a story about being different. And of course, he was bullied at school, and his parents got really upset and angry because he wasn't, doing well at school and all that kind of thing. And in the end, he runs away from home. He takes his little knapsack over his back, and he's off down the road, and then he meets this man, and it could get a bit creepy at this point, but this man was lovely, and he ran a radio station. He was looking for a sound effects man. So there was Gerald, became famous around the world as a sound effects guy, doing it for all the big movies and for all the, for the commercials and for this, even the chimes of the clock on the hour, for the radio station. So Gerald had there was a happy ending to Gerald McBoing Boing. I thought that was so cool.
Well, would you say you have like a favorite movie or television show or something?
Gosh, we watch so much these days. I saw your questions, and there was one that, I prefer to answer it in terms of the people and the characters who inspire me most. Can I answer it that way?
Of course.
So I really like the actors that I call chameleons. You know what that means, right?
Yes, yeah.
Obviously, top of that list has got to be Meryl Streep. So I love the films that she does, because she can embody those completely different characters and do it so well and so believably. And then there are other actors who do similar things. Like there's a couple of English actors. One is Gary Oldman, and he's able to, and Tom Hardy and Daniel Day-Lewis. They're all great at that. But Jim Carrey, I really like too, for his ability to flip into different characterizations.
Yeah, me
in a
too.
fun way.
I love him. He's always been my favorite. Yeah.
And Christian Bale, I think, is an interesting actor as well for that same reason. Well, we all watch far too much probably these days, but those are people whose careers and whose films I would really miss.
Definitely. Well, I was going to ask you if you have a favorite video game, but I'm not sure if you actually play video games, but I know you're a part of one now, so.
No, I don't.
All right.
So I can't help you there.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I mean, how does it feel to be a part of a video game? Was that something you ever expected?
It's as a voice actor, you do get the odd one that comes up, and I've found myself, I've never seen the games, but I've played, the villain in this, and I've played the the goofy guy in this other one, and I played the mysterious stranger in another, and I played the narrator in one, and the roles are quite. It's a huge. I didn't realize what a huge business it's becoming, because
Right.
in terms of voice work, there seems to be, that's the big growth area, is video games.
Well, how did you find out about this game?
I belong to an agency called Voices.com, and based on my profile, I get sent auditions, and so I received notification of an audition for this character, and so I thought, oh, I'll give that a crack. That sounded really interesting. What an interesting character, and so I gave it a whirl. And when you audition, you go, well, how am I going to do this? You know,
Mm-hmm.
who can I base it on? And I latched onto and channeled, if you like. Do you remember Back to the Future?
Yes.
The character of Doc,
Right.
that eccentric scientist guy. So that's who I got close to in doing Endo Kazuki.
It's funny you say that, actually, because I had him in my mind while I was writing his character. So that's funny that you use Doc as your inspiration, because he was my inspiration as well.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yep.
Oh, so you wrote the script?
Yes, the story. Yes, I wrote the story.
Oh, well, congratulations.
Yeah. Well, thank
Well
you.
done.
Did you read the entire script, or did you just read your parts?
I'm sorry.
No,
I
it's fine.
I only read my. God, if I'd known I was talking to the writer this morning, I would have done my homework. Jeepers, what a bad one that was.
It's fine. Most people actually didn't, unless it had their part in it. But some of the more major characters, of course, did read the entire thing,
Yeah.
because they had a lot of parts. But no, it's fine. I was just going to ask you if you have like a favorite moment or a favorite line that you performed.
Just before I answer that, what I really enjoyed and respected in the way you wrote it was the detail you put around, the thought process that's going on alongside the dialogue that's there. How was that represented in the video game?
Well, this genre of game is called a visual novel, and so there's really not any gameplay, so to speak. It's basically like an animated book. So there's artwork and there's music and obviously voiceovers, and then the text is on the screen. You can basically turn the page, so to speak, to read the next page. So it's just like a novel, but with more to it.
I loved the intro when they first meet. And, there was misunderstandings about what he wanted and why he wanted and who he was. This is the Rio, the person coming to see him. You find out more as the character of Kazuki is revealed through this introduction, getting him set up for his
Right.
first experience of dreamweaving. Yeah, no, I really enjoyed that part of it.
Yeah, I definitely wanted to embody the almost, mad scientist, but also funny and vulgar at the same time,
Yes, yes.
Would you say that Endo was a difficult character to act, or was he kind of in your realm, and was he familiar to you?
Well, it's interesting that we both came at it from the same angle.
Mm-hmm.
I think if I hadn't have slotted into that, it would have been quite difficult. It's sort of a character that you need to base something on. If you can find something like that, then it's easy. But
Right.
had I not, it would have been damned hard, I think, because you're kind of trying to put a world around him in your head, and a life experience and what's drawn him to the space, and being able to drop into Doc, and you went, well, we know who he is and what his motivation is, and we know basically he's a good guy. The thing about Endo is, he could have come out quite dark if I'd gone to another place. He is,
Right.
I have to say, the way I did him, he is obviously darker than Doc. He's foul-mouthed and he is truly eccentric,
Right.
but he's a good person and underneath it all.
Right, yeah. So did you read, or did you know why he ended up in the hospital?
Well, apart from the fact that his lab was destroyed.
Right. Yes, it was destroyed by the woman who basically owns that dream world that Rio invaded, and as revenge, she destroyed his entire lab, so he could never come back. That's how he ended up in the hospital.
Ah,
Yes, because he was caught in the fire.
maybe he could come back with his own lab. Maybe he... Who knows?
Hopefully. Well, I'm glad that you could have been a part of this game, and I think your voice was perfect for him, and I'm really happy that you could have the time to do it.
It's been really good. I mean, meeting Jaden yesterday was, and Demetrius, of course. This Jaden is in Georgia, and where are you?
I'm in Maryland, USA.
Whereabouts?
The United States, Maryland. State
Maryland. Okay,
yes.
You're Maryland. He's Demetrius is Georgia, and I think Jaden was California or somewhere.
Oh, yeah, I think he is. Yep.
Yeah. So I said to him yesterday, hey, let's wave to each other across the Pacific Ocean. Because...
Yeah, well, like I said, I'm glad that you could have been a part of this, and I hope it was a fun experience for you.
It certainly was, for those reasons, and
right.
And I'd love to do some more. As Demetrius said, there could be more coming up. So I'd be on for that.
Do you have any career aspirations? Like, what is another role that you would love to fill at some point?
I love them all, so I'm happy to fly under the radar, and what comes along is fine with me. Yeah. Like I've got to start something today, which is. It's a pilot for a R-rated, super violent thing about the Spanish Inquisition. So I've got 1,000 words in a thick Andalusian accent to do. So, I mean, I'm really interested and enjoying the process of developing the act. Well, I have a pretty good Italian accent, but it just has to be better. And it's set in the 16th century, and it's super violent and.
That sounds challenging.
So that's my weekend for me.
Yeah.
So.
Well, is there anyone that you would like to thank before we go?
Well, thank you, the writer.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, because we all owe a debt of gratitude to the writers. Demetrius saying he's having a bit of trouble with his new projects. That writers he can't get them to stick to it. So and I wish him well too, because he's managed to keep in contact and keep this whole workflow thing going, which can be quite difficult, but he's done it really well. So thanks to him too.
Definitely. Thank you again for your time today. I really enjoyed it.
Thanks to you, Mackenzie, and all the very best to you.